we're going to be going over Google Drive today. Was one of the topics that came up in our, well, one of the topics that a teacher reached out from adult school. Hopefully they'll show up and ask about just basics in Google Drive and some tips for organizing your email or using your Gmail better. So this presentation is about Google Drive and Gmail. So is your Google Drive driving you crazy? The link to the slides is in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and start a poll. So if you look at these two options, which do you prefer, option A or option B? You should be getting a poll on your screen. We got one vote for A. Somebody prefers B. Crazy. More for option A. So hopefully, if your Google Drive looks like option B, you're going to learn some ways to make it look more like option A to make you feel better. I know that when I have like a messy space, then it's hard for me to work, whether it's a digital space or a physical space. Okay, so this presentation is divided into 3 different sections. Okay, so in our first little chunk, we're going to be looking at organizing and sharing within Google Drive. And then in the second chunk, we're going to look at some settings and uploading and converting documents from Word to Google Drive. And then in the last chunk, we're going to look at Gmail tips and tricks. So some ways to help your email, like the overwhelming amount of emails that you may get, help make that less overwhelming. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have a little bit more understanding of organizing your Google Drive, utilizing the shared with me and the recent and the starred and the different settings, and become more confident in your Google app skills. Okay, so part 1, organizing and sharing. We're going to look at different types of files in Google Drive. We're going to differentiate between the different things on the left side panel, how to create folders, how to add documents to folders, even documents from your email, how to even move folders within folders, how to delete folders, and then how to collaborate and share and what different permissions mean. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth a lot between like My Drive. I'm going to be using My Drive as an example to show you, and the slides. The slides are a lot of screenshots and little GIFs, but I'm going to be showing you a lot of this within my own Drive. So first, understanding different file types in Google Drive, right? So a lot of us started teaching or started school using Word documents, right? PowerPoint, Word, Excel, those type of things, right? And now, over the last few years, we've migrated to this Google-based, cloud-based Google apps and things, right? So you are probably using more Google Docs, more Google Sheets, Google Slides, right? And those are all equivalent to a Word doc, to an Excel sheet, or to a Google or to a PowerPoint. It's just Google's version of those applications, right? And then maybe you're using Google Forms with your students, Google Drawings, right? And there's even Google Sites where you can create your own website. So those are the different apps within Google. They each have a different little picture that helps you, or logo that helps you identify which one is which. So in your Google Drive, on the side, there are different, right? There's different things that you can click through. So over here, you'll see My Drive and Shared Drive. So what's the difference between My Drive and Shared Drive? Your My Drive is all the documents that you make, right? That you create, they go into your drive. Some people use these shared drives, which can be shared with groups of teachers. So for example, the EdTech and the site EdTech, we have this SUHSD EdTech collaborative shared drive. So you can see there's 20 people in this drive. So this is a part of my drive, but it's a drive that's shared with all of the people. So anything I put into this, they're able to see. So lots of PLCs like to use shared drives because then all the documents that they dump in there then become editable to everybody that's in that shared drive. Okay, so my drive is things that you create that go into your drive. A shared drive you can create, right, and have a space for a specific group of people. So your PLC or your department, or if you're working on a committee with different people, you might want to have a shared drive. Any questions about, I'm going to end this. Any questions about shared drive, my drive? So when you have documents in a shared drive, or some people call them team drives, they used to be called team drives when they first came out, right? Those are all shared with the team or the group. In your drive, that's individual who created that document, right? So it's your document that's in there. In a shared drive, there's different roles that you can give people. There's manager, content manager, and contributor. So you could have a shared drive or a team drive that has, you could be the content manager and you could add your students, or you could add somebody else as just a contributor. So they're only able to contribute to the documents. They're not allowed to move things around or add things. So there's different settings inside of a team drive as well. In a team drive, it's helpful too because things can't get moved out. So sometimes you'll share something with someone and they'll move it and then you won't be able to find it. In a team drive, only the content managers can move the content around. So team drive and shared drive, or shared drive and my drive. So underneath my drive and shared drive, you have these options, right, called shared with me, recent, starred, and trash. So if somebody shares a document with you and you can't find that document, the first place you should probably look is the shared with me. And it's going to go by date. So I can see here yesterday, here's some documents that were shared with me earlier this week, right, last week, different documents that were shared with me. So if you ever lose something that's shared with you, that might be the first place to look for it, right, if it's recently shared with you. If something is shared with you, you can always move it to your drive. So let's see, for example, here's these slides that were shared with me. If I wanted to move these from my shared drive to my drive, I can right-click them. Right, and I'm going to get this drop-down of options. So I can preview this document. I can open this document with Google Slides with Cami. I can share this document. I can get a link. I can, and I can also, right here where it says add shortcut to drive. So if a document is owned by somebody else, you can't just move it to your drive, but you can create a shortcut that will move it to your drive. Right, so I can click add a shortcut. I can click in here, my drive. I can pick which folder that I want it to go to. And you're going to see that my drive is like a labyrinth of folders. So in here, right, I might say, oh, I want to move these slides into here. And then I'm going to hit add shortcut. Add shortcut. So now in my personal drive, I could go into that folder. Into the other folder, and I would find a shortcut to that Google Slides. And you'll notice that shortcuts, they have this little arrow on them. So if somebody sends something to you and it's really important and you don't want to lose it, right, add it to your drive, add a shortcut, place it where you, right, organize it in a place that you want it to be. Recent will show you documents that you've recently opened. So here's things that I opened today. Here's things, I haven't opened all these today. Things that I opened yesterday, all in this recent drive. So it's also another place to go if you lose something. You might go to your recents and see if you can find it. Your star drive is where you star important things. So if you have, let's see, we can go into your drive and I can see like this virtual learning walk document's really important and I don't want to lose it, so I'm going to add it to starred. So when I right click, there's a little guy, and if I hit add to starred, it's going to keep it here. It's not moving it completely, but it's going to add it also to my starred. The starred documents might be documents that you use a lot that you want to easily be able to access in your starred section of your Google Drive. Okay, I'm going to answer these questions. Can you just make a copy from a shared drive item and move it to your own drive? Yes, you can do that, but like Robert is saying, that a shortcut will connect you to the original. So if you make a copy of something, that's now your copy. No longer will any edit show up. So say that me and Tatiana are working on something together and I make a copy of that, I'm no longer going to see edits that she makes to that document. If I add a shortcut to my drive, then I'm going to see it's still that same original document. It's not a copy of that document. You might make a copy of something, like if you are in a PD and you see slides that you really like and you want to keep them, you might make a copy of them. If you're working collaboratively on something or something you know is going to be updated by other people, you're not going to want to make a copy of it because then you won't have those updates. So a shortcut is takes you to that original document. A copy makes an entire copy, and now nobody that has access to it but you. It's your copy. So adding shortcuts to your drive is helpful if you have documents that that are going to be constantly updated, right? Because if you make a copy, then you're not going to see the update. If you add a shortcut, you're going to see the update. And then you know it's a shortcut because it'll have that little arrow on the bottom of the document or the slideshow, whatever it is that you save. So your star drive is a way to keep things in one place that maybe you use frequently. Google now has this called priority. So priority, it notices the documents that you open most frequently, and it places them in your priority. So if you're working on something all week, it's going to end up putting that in your priority, so you'll be easily to find it. You can't add things to your priority. It's an algorithm from what you open that adds it to priority. So they also now, these are new, haven't played with them much, but they're called workspaces. So you can create workspaces, right? So if you're, like, for example, I'm thinking like I'm going to be working on CIA week, and there's lots of documents in CIA week. So I could create a workspace, right, called CIA week, and I can add files to that workspace. So if I was working on this document, and I know that's a document that goes with CIA week, I can right click it, and I can add it to, where's that? Add it to a workspace, CIA week. So it's not going to move that from the folder that it lives in, but it's going to create me a little workspace of documents here that would allow me to easily be like, oh, I can quickly open all the things that I need without having to go through my labyrinth of folders. Okay. So your workspace, I can add more. Like say I wanted to add these slides, I could go add to my workspace. I'm going to add it in there. And I can create multiple workspaces. Right? I could have one called PLC or something, and I could add documents into there that go along with that workspace. So it's another way to kind of keep track of multiple documents that you might be working on together. So this workspaces thing is new. It's kind of cool. I haven't played with it, but I could definitely see creating workspaces that would be beneficial for workflow. Okay. Any questions about shortcuts or your shared with me, recent, starred, any of the things in the left-hand side? Is my sound better? Oh, I was cutting off. Sometimes when I talk this way, because I'm looking at my slides on this screen, my sound isn't as good because my mic is straight ahead. Okay. Okay, so creating folders. So in your drive, I'm in my drive right? I'm in my drive. Anything I create comes down here to the bottom. So if I go new Google Doc, right, and I title it, and I start, you know, taking notes on this thing, and I have this Google Doc. That Google Doc is going to go right here to the bottom of my drive. So this is like when things don't have a home, right? If you think like, if you have, like, I think about my kid, and kids have like lots of little toys and trinkets. So this is like their floor, right? And then the files are like the baskets where they put their toys, right? So you're like, here's where the cars go, here's where the Legos go. So in your drive, this bottom part is like the floor where everything falls. And so in order to organize that, you can create folders. So you can see here in my drive, I have lots of folders. So if you click new folder, you can create a folder. Note that folders are organized alphabetically. That's how they put them in order. So now if I created this folder, I can take this document and I can drag it. I can just click it and hold it and drag it into that folder, and now that is no longer on the floor. I put it in a basket where it belongs. Right? So I, once a month, try to go through this, because if you make a copy of something, anytime you open or create something, it goes right here to the floor. So once a month, I try to come in here and organize or delete things that maybe I made a copy of that I don't really need, or things that I made quickly and I never put them in a folder. So I try to go through this bottom part and organize it once a month. Also want to point out that I said that they are alphabetical. If you have folders that are more important than others, you can use numbering systems. So you can see I number them like 1, there's no 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And it puts them now in that order. So I can see my most important ones at the top. You can also use the stars. So you could put 1 star at the front, or 2 stars, 3 stars, and it'll make it it'll organize it that way. Okay? So its default is going to be alphabetical, but if you have folders that you want in the front, use stars or use numbers to organize them. You can also change the color, right, to make it stand out more. So you can see I've changed the color on some of these. If I right-click the folder, there's a thing that says change color, and I can choose a color. And I can also rename the folder right here if I right-click it. So if I added a stars in front of this folder, it's going to move it to the front. So another trick that I use is numbers or stars in order to keep things. Hold on a second. My dog was getting out her toy and it was loud. Okay. So I can get kind of crazy with my numbering. When I was in the classroom, I would number my assignments by the day because I often worked with new teachers and I was a PLC lead. So I numbered things a lot. So if we go into my class resources file, I was the lead for US history, and I had a shared folder. This is before team drives or shared drives. And I shared this with all the other teachers and new teachers and student teachers. And so I would label everything by numbers. That way they would see the sequence of my lessons. So you can get as specific as that, right? I had it labeled by unit, and then within a unit, I had it labeled, right, 0, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 5, 1. So I numbered things all the way down so that even in my drive, my lessons were sequenced in the order that would make it easy for me to find them. And so numbering is really good for helping you keep your drive organized, depending on the level of OCD you have. So creating folders, right, and then using numbering systems, and then having folders within folders. So if I open up any of these, right, home folders, like say I open up this civics folder, I can go new. I don't have permission, see, because that's not my folder. The folder that was shared with me. So I can open up, let's see, open this. I can open up a folder and I can hit new folder and I can create a folder within that folder, right? So you can create a system of labyrinths that organize things in the way that you want them to be organized. Yeah, and so Terry, you up here, there's this little list view. So if you click here, you can go from, if you prefer, you can have your drive organized this way where it's in this long row. Or how I have it is the grid view. You can click there and it'll turn it into a grid view. So depending on how you like to look at it, you can look at it in list view or you can look at it in grid view. That's a good question that I didn't have in my slides. Any questions about folders or labeling? Delete folders, you just right click on them. If I right click on any folder, it'll say remove. And that will take that folder to my trash. Your trash is emptied every 30 days. So if you accidentally delete something or you can't find something, you might have accidentally deleted it, you can check your trash right over here on the side. And your trash is deleted forever after 30 days. So anything that I have deleted in the last 30 days is here in my trash. So anything can get deleted, right click, remove. So that can be a folder, that could be a document, right? A picture, a Google form, anything, right click, remove, it's going to stick it in your trash for 30 days. If you make a document directly in a folder, it's going to live in that folder, which is one of my suggestions, is that anytime you make a document, go to the folder that you want that document to live in. So if I'm working in induction and I need to create a document for the person I'm working with, right? I might go in here, like, oh, I need to work on this with Monique. So I'm going to go into this and I'm going to create that document within that folder. Now it's going to live there. So I don't have to worry about dragging and dropping it and moving it. If you create it within the folder, it lives in the folder. That's one of my tips at the end, is to create your documents or your forms or your slides or your websites, like any of those Google applications, create it within the folder that you want it to live versus having to drag and drop it and move it. If you don't create it right in there, like I said earlier, you can drag and drop it into a folder. If you want to move it into a folder, right, you can right click and hit move to. So if I wanted to move this document into this folder, but then within this folder, there's another folder that I wanted to go into. There might be even another folder within there, right? I can click and find the place I want to move it to and click move here. And I'll move that into those into those folders. If you add or create something in a folder that has been shared with all those who have access to the folder, yes. It'll give you a message that says moving this into this folder will give access to other people, and you just click OK. So it'll tell you that you're moving it into a folder that other people can see. Okay, we did this drag drop, right? So even from your email, if you get an important document in your email, like here's an agenda for this committee meeting that I have. So I can see it has a little drive. So because it's not my document, it's asking me to add a shortcut. So I can click from my email, place it in my drive into the folder that I want it to be in. And so I don't have a folder already for this committee, right? So I would want this to go in my EdTech folder, and I should probably make a folder. So you can click down here, this little plus, and I can create a folder from right here. So I can do Art Showcase Committee folder because I don't have one already. And then I click that, it's going to make that folder, and then I can add that shortcut right in there. So now if I go into my drive, into this EdTech folder, we'll see that Arts Committee folder that I just made, and it'll have a shortcut to that document in it. So if you get something in your email, I try to save things right away because I don't like it to be messy. So you can add things to your drive right from your email. Okay, let's see what's next. Moving files from a folder, we just talked about that, right? So if you click on the document, say I'm like, oh crap, I put this in here, but I didn't really want it in this folder. I put it in the wrong folder. I could right click, I could hit move to, and I can move it. Say, oh no, never mind, I wanted it in this folder. And I could change where I have it. I could click move here and move it into that folder. Where are we at? Deleting, we talked about deleting, right? You just right click, hit remove, goes to your trash. So collaborating and sharing permissions. So anytime you create anything in Google, there is always the little share button. Let's see. So for example, these slides, right? I guess it's not blue anymore, it's yellow. There's this yellow shared button. It's going to be on the top of your Google Slides, your Google Docs, your Google Sheet, right? By clicking that shared button, that allows you to share that document or that folder with people, right? And there's different permissions. So if I wanted to add Robin to this Google slideshow, I could click her name, and over here there's a little drop down. So I can make her an editor, I can make her a viewer, so she can only view the document, or I can make her a commenter, so she could use the comment feature to leave comments, so she can't edit the actual slide. You choose the access that you want to give people when you share, right? And then, so if I want to make her editor, I could even write a message like, hey, here's the slideshow that we're working on, da-da-da-da-da, and I hit send, and it's going to send her an email that says, this has been shared with you, and it'll have my little message. The same goes for your folders. So if you wanted to create a folder and share it, right, you can right click it, hit share, and again, this is going to pop up. If I want to share this document or this folder, I can make her an editor, which allows her to organize, add, and edit files to that folder. I can make her a commenter, which would allow her comment access to all the documents in the folder, or I can just make her a viewer of the folder so she can view the folder. So you can add people to entire folders or to specific documents, right? And you can give them different permissions. Any questions about any of that? Can viewers make a copy? Yes, viewers can make a copy. There is ways to like force it so people can't make copies, but I'm not quite sure how to do that, but I've seen that happen before. Okay. Any questions about that first part? You want me to show anything? More questions before I go on to the second part? You know, it's like a lot of information quickly. And, you know, I wish if we had more than an hour, I would like give you time to play around and start organizing. You have access to these slides. They're in the chat. I'll put it again. And again, you're a viewer of the slides, so you could add a shortcut of the slides to your drive, or you could make a copy of the slides and have your own copy of the slides. And if you started, you know, getting into your stuff and you got overwhelmed or whatever, we could always book one-on-one time that like we could work to organize it together if that was something that you needed. If you make your own copy, you can make changes to it, yes. If you add a shortcut, you won't be able to because you're just a viewer. Okay, so part 2, uploading and converting. So we're going to talk a little bit about uploading and converting, settings, searching for documents using the search bar, and uploading files, folders, and other types, and how those convert to Google Docs. So this always reminds me of when I first, when I was in college, when I was in high school, it was lots of Word documents, Word, PowerPoint, right? And then when I went to college, it was a combination of both. And then in graduate school, it was a lot of Google Drive. So when I started teaching, like in my credential program, and then I started teaching, I was already familiar with Google Drive. So when I came to this district, I already, like, this district was just moving to a Google district when I came. And so that was an easy switch for me because I had already been doing that in my credential program. But there was a lot of teachers that were not, you know, you carry your, back in the day, you carried your USB with you everywhere, right? You had your USB with your files on it and you took it with you everywhere. And so when my first year, they threw me in as PLC lead because nobody else wanted to do it. And I had teachers with their little USBs, and they would be like, oh, I don't have my USB, I can't do this. And I was like, why don't you just put it in the drive? Why don't you just, it's in the cloud? So it took me a while to convince one of these teachers that I was collaborating with a lot to put all of her stuff into the Google Drive. So what I learned from that experience is that anytime you add something to your Google Drive that is a Word document, a PowerPoint, right? It's not a Google Doc, it brings it in as a non-Google Doc. So if you want all of your things to convert to Google Docs, there are settings up here in the top of your drive. So if you open up these settings, there's a button that says Convert Upload. Your default is going to have this turned off. So anything you upload is going to stay a Word, stay a PowerPoint, stay in Excel. If you click Convert Uploads and you save, anything that you bring in is going to convert to a document similar. So if you bring in a Word doc, it's going to convert it to a Google Doc. If you bring in a PowerPoint, it's going to convert it to a Google slide. This way it's editable. Otherwise, you have to download it back into Word to edit it from your drive. It gets messy, right? So if you click this button, then anything that you bring into your drive that's not a Google app will automatically be converted to a Google app. I will point out that some things like worksheets or PowerPoints might get a little funky, like you might have to fix your text boxes and maybe some of the effects that you have won't work. But it's helpful because then you don't have to open with and make a copy of that document and have multiple documents in your drive. It just takes it, converts it, and that's what you have in your drive. So I've had that button on forever, so anything that I have in here won't be a Word doc or a PowerPoint. But you'll know because it won't have a Google logo. It'll have a Word logo on here. So I would suggest if you are starting that conversion from Word applications or Microsoft applications to Google, that you click that button, so that way anything you bring over converts. I'm going to go back to that one. I'm going to go to this one first, which makes more sense. So if you have worksheets or PowerPoints or whatever it is that you want to, even if you have entire folders on your desktop or on a USB, you can easily bring those into your drive. So if you click the little new button, there's one that says File Upload and Folder Upload. So if I had a whole folder of documents that I wanted to upload, I could click File or Folder Upload. I could find that folder on my desktop or wherever, and I could upload it into my drive. So when I'm talking about that teacher that I was working with and her little USB, we just took all the folder, we clicked Convert to Word, we took all the folders from her USB and we put them, we uploaded them into the Google Drive, and they were all nice how she had them in folders by unit or whatever. So I would suggest you can bring things over in bulk by using that folder upload, whether it's from a USB or from your desktop. And then you can upload individual files. So if you downloaded something and you want to bring it into your drive, right, you can go to File, Upload, and find that file and upload it. Let's see. What's the advantage of converting? The advantage of converting is that everything stays in the cloud. So unless you're using like Office 365, right, where you have OneNote, or not OneNote, where you have OneDrive, and you have everything in your, so Microsoft didn't have what Google has, and now they do. Within the last couple of years, they have now a cloud-based system, just like Drive, that they call OneDrive. And that's Google's equivalent to Google Drive is OneDrive. So if you're using OneDrive, I would say that's fine. The benefit to uploading them is that because of our district accounts, we have like unlimited storage. So you're fitting everything onto a cloud. You're not taking up storage on your personal device. We don't have 365, so you won't, or we don't have OneDrive, Office 365, so you would have to purchase that. So the benefits would be the unlimited space on your district drive, and that majority of things that you get from the district are going to come in Google form. They're going to come in a Google Doc or a Google Slides, and so you're getting more familiar with the applications that they use. And other teachers might not have Microsoft Word. I know in the past, the district had where we could download it for free, but that's not even a thing anymore. So people might be using the free version of Word, but I think it's better to start converting to Google if you haven't already, just because that's what the majority of the documents are coming from. And it's really easy because I can log into any computer and have access to all of this, no matter where I am, right? I can be on vacation in Mexico and log into some desktop computer in the hotel and have access to all of my documents. You can't do that if it's stored on your, unless you bring your laptop with you or your USB. So it keeps everything there, it keeps everything safe. Does this allow us to use Word from any version? So this doesn't allow you to use Word, but anything in Word you can bring in here and convert it to a Google Doc. I wish I could show, maybe I can. Let's see, on my drive, or on my desktop, I have, this is like a template. So notice this template is in Word. See how it has a little W? That means it's a Word template. So I can, if I upload this, if I click here and I hit open, it's gonna upload this template. That's a Word doc, see the little W? And then when it comes into my drive, it's not gonna be a W anymore. It's gonna be the little Google Doc. So it took this Word file that I had on my desktop, uploaded it into my drive as a Google Doc. That's if you have that little convert everything button click. If I don't have that little button click, let's see. If I unclick this button and I upload that same document, right, here's the first one. See how it converted it? Now I don't have that button click, so this document is a Word document. So when I go to open this, oops, when I go to open this, I'm not going to have access to edit it or do anything to it because it's a Word document. So I'm going to have to right-click it, and I'm going to have to click Open With Google Doc. Now it's converting that document into a Google Doc. So if I go back to my, right now I have edit access to that document where I didn't before because I brought it in as a Word document. And if I go back to my drive, right, when I didn't have that button click, now I have multiple copies of this in here that I don't need, right, because it's going to bring this over as well. Only download stuff. Yeah, there are differences in what you can do in a Word and a Google Doc. Like you can do more in a Word doc. Like when I'm working on my dissertation, I'm working in Word because it has formatting things that I can do that I can't do in Drive or in a Google Doc. Same with PowerPoint. Like you can do more in PowerPoint than you can in in Google Slides. So depending on what I'm doing or creating, I might be using one or the other. Everything that I do for school though, or for Salinas Union High School District for work, I do in my Drive. So the only things I use Office for are my dissertation things, and that's just because I have formatting things that I have to do in Word that I can't do. Okay. Before we run out of time, we have to do the email. Okay. So searching and sorting documents. So like I talked about earlier, if something was recently shared with you, if something is in, in your recent, those are two places that you can go to look to quickly find them. If there's something that maybe you opened a long time ago, like I'm like, oh, I went to that PD 6 months ago and I made a copy of those slides, I can't find them anywhere, right? It's not going to be in my recent, because if it's months ago, I'm going to have to scroll down forever. That would take too much time. So up in the very top, right, there's search. So in this search bar, I can type in, if I'm like, oh, that PD and I think it was called this, I can type that title in and search. I can go to an advanced search and I can search very specifically. So if I'm like, oh, I had that meeting 3 months ago with Haley and she shared that PowerPoint with me or that Google Slides with me and now I can't find it. So I can go into the advanced and I can click, I can say, I know it was a presentation, I know that it was Haley who shared it with me, right? So I can go in here and I can say presentation specific person, search everywhere, search my trash, search my stars, search everywhere. I can press search, and now it's going to pull up anything that was searched or that was shared with me by Haley, which doesn't look like anything. So that advanced search feature can be helpful, right? I can say, oh, there's a Google Doc that, you know, Antonio shared with me, and I can search, and it's going to pull up any Google Docs that Antonio shared with me. So using that advanced search can help you find things that you may have lost, you know, longer than recent. Yeah, Google does not have that. Kami is good for that, like Robert is saying. And I know we talked about Kami a little bit in our training that we did with Yo. So if Kami is something that you guys are interested in, maybe our next tech one, we can do a Kami, we can do Kami. Because Kami is something you could use with your students as well. Okay. We talked about this, right? Converting documents. So some general tips, like I said earlier, when creating a document, go to the folder that you want it to live in and then create it there. When you receive a folder, add it immediately to where you want it to be so that you don't lose it and that you don't have to spend time searching for it. Use that search function if you have lost something, right? If you're like, I know that I'm looking for this that was shared with me by whoever, use that advanced search function. Use the star to star important things because you know they're going to be in that starred folder, that starred part of your drive. And then be careful with making copies. Like, do I really need a copy of this? And if you are making copies, then when you make the copy, make sure you add it or move it to where you want it to be. And then, again, I want to reiterate that a shortcut is going to still be editing whoever is the original owner. And if you add a shortcut to something and then that person leaves the district or they delete that file, your shortcut's going to go missing. So think about, do I make a copy of this or do I make a shortcut of this, depending on what the document is. How am I animating text in my slides? I have an extension up here called Giphy. You can add this Giphy extension. And then I just go up here and I click it and I can search either for GIFs or there's stickers. So I'll often search like, you know, yeah. And then it will pull up stickers that are like, yeah. And then I can say, oh, I like this little fish, this baby shark. I can drag it over here. I just click it and drag it and it puts it in here. And then you delete this background part because it puts the link, and then you have your little baby shark and you can move it however you want. So that's an extension called Giphy that you can get. And so you can get GIFs and stickers. That's also how I create, like I've created GIFs in there. There's also little emojis and text. So you can create any text by writing it in here. So Giphy. Okay, any questions about any of that? Giphy, like this, Giphy. How to avoid naming redundancy in your Google Drive folders. Naming redundancy, like naming things, I don't, I just get specific in the names that I'm making, I guess. And I often, like, I don't have a lot of folders in this front part. Like, I have a main folder, like my EdTech folder, that takes me to a bunch of other folders, right? Like my Synergy one and my this one. So I guess just being strategic about the names, the stuff you're having in there. So see all this stuff on my floor? Like, I need to come in here and clean this up. Messy. And then I don't know what you mean by CTO. And I see that Sue has her hand raised, so you feel free to ask a question if you have one, Sue. Yvonne, if you want to clarify what you mean by CCO, I don't know what that means. Oh, is the Giphy copyright? It's free. Anybody, so Giphy is like anybody can go in there and make a GIF. So if you go into their software or their web software and you make a GIF, then they own it and anybody can use it. Okay. So we have just a little bit left, and I want to get to Gmail. Okay, Gmail. Email may be the bane of some people's existence. I know for me it is. Like, look, I already have 3. We've been here for 45 minutes. So different ways to organize your email. There are different settings in your email. So they have quick settings. So if I click the little gear, right, the little settings gear, it's going to pull up these quick settings. And in these quick settings, I can change the way that my email is laid out. You can notice right now how my email is. I have unread things at the top, and I have important things, and then I have everything else. So I choose to customize, right, my priority inbox. I can choose to have important first, where it's going to now move, right? And so things might not be, unread things might be down lower because I didn't mark them as important. I can have unread first, unread, and then everything else. I can have things that I've starred first, and then everything else. Or I can have this priority inbox, and I can customize this if I wanted to. I could click customize, and I could change, right? So I have unread, important, everything else. So that's how I like to view my email. Also, you could change your theme. So you notice I have like mountains back here. Every once in a while, I come in here and I change it. Then I feel like it's a new place. You can change the density. So I have it to the default. So in the default, I'm able to see, oh, this email has an attachment. Oh, this email has an attachment. If I move it to comfortable, it's going to take those away. It's making it smaller, and now I don't see that those have an attachment. I like to know that the email has an attachment, and it helps me identify like, oh, that's that email, or oh, that's that document I need to save. And you can do compact, but this gives me stress because look at how close it is to each other. It's not pretty on the eyes. So you can change the density. I like default. I like my little customized inbox. There's also other things. You can split the page. You can split it so that you have this, your emails all over here. And now if I open this email, it's going to open it over here. So I'm seeing things side by side. Some people like this view, right? Or you can do it below. So you're seeing the email below. I don't really like to split it, so I click no split. So those are some of those quick settings that you can use to help organize, prioritize your email. Signature in the settings is how you create your email signature. There's 2 videos in here because we don't have time to go over it, but there's videos on how to make a basic email signature and then one for making custom Bitmoji ones if you wanted to get cute with your email signature. But in your, if you click the settings, there's up here, see all settings, takes you to more settings. Down at the bottom is where your signature is, and you can have multiple signatures. Like I have 2020, 2021, my Bitmoji signature. Jen and I have a signature together. So you can have different signatures for different things. Templates. If you email a lot the same message, I'm thinking about students, right? Or I'm thinking, oftentimes teachers will email me and be like, oh, I want to set up office hours, or when are you available? I have to type out the same email over and over again. You can create templates. So say I open this email from Natalie and I want to reply and I have a template. I can go down here to these 3 little dots on the bottom, and there's a thing that says template. This is a practice template that I was making when I gave this presentation the other day for missing assignment. So I can make a template that says you're missing blah, 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 blah. And if I click that, it's going to put that message into my email, so I don't have to type it over and over and over again. So when I was working with students, I had a template that said, you're missing blank assignment, or you currently have an F in the class, please reach out to see what you need to do. I can have a template, that way I don't have to keep copying and pasting it. I can just click the 3 dots and I can stick the template in there. I can create templates from here as well. So I could go in here, say I'm writing an email that's like, of course I have office hours at this link, da 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 da, and I type it all in there. I can go 3 little dots, template, save draft as template, save as new. I'm going to call this my office hours template. Now it's going to save the words that I wrote in this email as my office hours template. So if I have another email, I can do template, office hours, and it's going to put that same message in there. So templates can be really helpful if you're feeling like you're repeating yourself, right? You're having to send the same email over and over again. Utilize making templates. Labels and filters. Let's see. Labels and filters. Are many of you using Google Classroom? Like the private, or no? Some people are yes. Google Classroom often sends like an overwhelmingly amount of emails. So in the settings, you can turn those on or off, or which ones you want to receive, but you can also create labels. So labels are the ones, right, over here you have your inbox and all these things. If you scroll down, you have labels. They're these little, they look like little tabs. So I have created like a Google Classroom label. So anytime something comes in, we did this stuff the other day, it comes in as Google, it labels it Google Classroom. I also get these Google Collaborative emails from the Google, like this is our local Google group. And so these emails, they flood up my email because they come all the time. And like, yeah, sometimes I want to read them, but I maybe don't want them to come in my inbox. So I created a label in the settings that allowed anytime an email comes that says California Google Schools Collaborative, it sends it into this folder. So it doesn't send it directly into my inbox. So in my settings, I can go to labels and I can create a new label. So here you see this one says Google Collaborative. So I hit create new label. I give it a title, and then I can edit that label. Then I can create it so anytime something comes in, it filters it. So up here says filters and blocks. So I can go to create a new filter. So anytime I get an email that has the words Google Collaborative, I want that to, I'm going to create a filter. I want that to go to apply to a label, and I want it to move it to whatever. I can also choose to send a template. Like there's so many little things in here that you can do that'll help productivity. So I chose apply label Google Collaborative, create filter. Now anytime I get those emails, they go into this, they filter into here. So filters, another way to help if you get lots of emails that you want to keep, but you don't necessarily want to read right away. I know we're running out of time, almost over. Using Google Keep and Google Tasks. So in your Gmail, over here on the side, you have these little different buttons. One is your calendar. So I often have this pulled up so I can see what I have coming up. Right, and then I can click on it and I can, join the Google Meet or whatever I need to do. I can also create events right here so I don't have to have another tab open for Google Calendar. You also have one called Google Keep. So your Google Keep allows you to take notes. So oftentimes if I get something in an email, like a link to something I want to read or something that I have to go back to, I'll take a note and I'll put that here in my Google Keep. You can see that I have these different things over here on the side. There's also Google Tasks, which allows you to keep like a checklist of a to-do list. So in here I have some items that I need to do. So I can add anything to my checklist, like work on slides or whatever, and that adds it to my thing. And then when I finish it, I can check it off and it goes away. So utilizing this little column with your calendar, your Keep, and your to-do. Another cool thing about Keep is like if you get an email that has something in it that you want to keep, like for example, this book club one, if I open this, see the emails right here. So I can go back, it's going to open the email with the directions for what I'm supposed to do for this book club. So so I'm like, I can easily go back to that email. So say this email from Natalie about the art, I can open it, I can click take note, and it now has that email in the note. So I can be like, don't forget, we need to do whatever, whatever. And then when I open that note, I'll be able to quickly access that email. So those are also helpful for organizing, so you don't forget things. And then lastly, unsubscribe. Like we get so much junk. Every time you go to a conference or every time you go to a website and fill something out with your email, they put you on their mailer, right? And then so you get junk. So in my email, like I have this, right? I might get messages from Q and I don't want to get them. So I can open this. And if you scroll down to the very bottom, there's often a button that says unsubscribe from mail list. So my new thing has been every time I get an email from a company and I don't want it anymore, I'm like, they're just messing up my inbox. I scroll down and I unsubscribe from it. That way I won't get their emails anymore. I get so many that when I wake up in the morning, 50 of my emails will just be junk. So I'll go through them, and I've been trying to be good about pressing unsubscribe so they don't spam me anymore. So if it doesn't spark you joy, like Marie Kondo says, unsubscribe. And then the last thing is just the search tool. So again, utilize the search tool. If you're like, oh my God, Tatiana sent us that email about whatever and I can't find it and I need to do something and we have this meeting and I don't remember what I'm supposed to do, go to your search, right? Search, again, you can say from, same as the Google Drive, right? I can say from Tatiana. Maybe it had a thing in it about PLC, and then I can search, and any email from her that says PLC would show up. So use that search if you lose things. Very similar to the Google Drive one, right? I know the email was from Antonio, and I know that in it he said PLC, search. I'm gonna pull up anything that he sent that said PLC. So now it's cleaned, it's giving me a search that's specific to what I'm looking for versus going to my inbox and doing this. I know that person sent me an email, right? So it allows a search. Okay, check the chat. Template for emailing teachers about new students you're adding. Yep. Can you block a sender? Yeah, you can block people, right? If I open this, I can right click these three little dots, click on these three little dots, I can report it as spam, or I can block this, and it will block that person. I have folders where you have labels. How do I convert those to labels so that mail will automatically go there? We can set up an appointment, Terry, to look at your specific email. And then, is that phrase anywhere in the doc or just from the subject line of the email? If it's anywhere in the email, they'll find it anywhere in the email, not just in the title. That was like a quick wham, bam, Google Drive, Gmail. Any other questions? Yeah, I'll put my, I'll put this link in the chat that has it has my office hours. So if you wanted to talk about specifics or help with specifics, you can use that link to book an appointment specifically with you if you have one-on-one things that you'd like to do. I'm going to